Number 10. Cyril. Cyril originally believed she was Kal-El's daughter. She told Superman as much, believing she was the daughter of him and Lois Lane from the future. A genetic test would reveal that she was telling the truth in part, and genetically was Superman's daughter. In reality, it would later be revealed that she was actually created by Brainiac to bring about the end of the world. He created her using Superman's genetic material and implanted her with the Yes virus, a techno-organic virus that when unleashed would allow him to rule the world. She was also designed to be strong enough to defeat Superman. Brainiac had also intended to use Cyril to destroy his nemesis. Once she learned of this, she decided to erase herself from existence in order to protect the world and her pseudo-father, Superman. Number 9. Van-El. Van-El comes to us from the famous Superman story For the Man Who Has Everything. He was a non-powered son of Superman who existed in Superman's sweetest dreams. Superman experienced these dreams after being exposed to an alien parasitic organism known as the Black Mercy. It drains its victims' life energy while giving them pleasant, hallucinogenic dreams. In Superman's dreams, Krypton was never destroyed and he still lived there. He was married and had a son named Mon-el. Technically, if they were on Earth, Mon-el would likely have powers similar to Superman, but because he and Kal-El were on Krypton, where there is no yellow sun to power either of them, they were both just normal, like other Kryptonians. Number 8. Urzod. Urzod comes to us from the Justice Lord's universe. He was created to be the perfect genetic heir to the throne of Earth, and to help usher in an era of peace after years of war. He was created using the genetic material of Wonder Woman and Lord Superman, but is considered to be somewhat weaker in terms of power levels than his parents. Originally, Brainiac got a hold of Urzod, planning to use and raise him as his own weapon of destruction. Fortunately, he was saved by Superman from the Batman Beyond universe and taken in by their Justice League. While his inherited powers might not be as strong as his parents, Urzod also has the unique ability of being able to control technology, which would prove useful later on in his fight against Brainiac. Man, Brainiac's always making all these fake children. Or well, I guess he didn't make this one, but he wanted to like mold it. Brainiac's always up to no good. That's what I'm learning from this list. Number 7. Lara Lane Kent. Lara Kent is the unborn daughter of Lois Lane and Superman in the Injustice universe. In a dream that Superman has during year 3, we get to see what her life would have been like had that fateful day gone differently for Superman and he hadn't been made to kill his wife and unborn daughter. In this alternate dream reality, Lara is raised by both her parents, her first word notably being mom. When her powers begin to manifest, she is taught by her father and his friends on the Justice League about how to use them. Lara at one point as a young adult looks down at the Earth with her father from space and wonders if the fighting and crime will ever stop. Her dad tells her that they could, if they wished, use their powers to enforce order to save the humans of Earth from themselves, forcing them to have peace. But Lara teases her dad, responding that he sounds like a B-grade villain saying that. Instead, Lara ends up working as an ambassador for the League, helping everyday people to learn how to fight for themselves, instead of just always continuing to have superheroes fighting for them. Number 6. Ariella Kent. Ariella Kent is the daughter of Linda Danvers, formerly Supergirl, and Earth 1 Superman. Ariella lived happily with her parents, presumably until the Spectre informed Linda that she needed to return to her own parallel reality. If you're wondering if it's creepy that Supergirl and Superman have a child together in an alternate timeline, it kinda is if you just hear that without context, but with context, it really isn't that creepy. Linda Danvers is not a Supergirl who is related at all to Clark Kent, not even in her own reality, and even if she had been, which she isn't, this Clark Kent was actually from a different alternate Earth altogether. So no, they're not related. After Linda returned to her reality, Spectre agreed to allow her daughter to live. Ariella, as a 6-year-old girl, was supremely powerful but didn't have the maturity to wield her powers wisely, because she's just a little kid. She was capable of time travel and mostly traveled through space, playing and unknowingly creating mass destruction wherever she went. That's what happens when you're a kid that is that powerful. You just play with planets and blow them up. Yikes. Number 5. Joel Kent. Joel Kent comes to us from Earth 3839. There he was the son of Superman and Lois Lane. However, while Lois was pregnant with Joel, she was exposed to gold kryptonite by the villains Joker and Lex Luthor. This caused her son to be born without any powers. Lex used Joel's shame to his advantage, claiming that Joel's father was the one responsible for this. Lex said that Superman had exposed his unborn son to gold kryptonite on purpose, fearful that his son would become even more great than him. him. This seeming revelation caused Joel to become more detached from his family, thinking of Lex as more of a father than his own father. He also became more cruel over time. Eventually, he became a villain to his family, accepting a serum that Lex said would restore his powers. Number 4. Kara Kent Wayne. Kara was the daughter of Superman and Lois from the same alternate Earth of 3839, born 3 years after her brother. She herself had superpowers similar to her father's, though weaker due to her hybrid human and Kryptonian physiology. Kara would grow up to become a hero and take up the mantle Supergirl, and ended up falling in love with the newest Batman, who was actually Bruce Wayne Jr., the son of the original Batman. Bruce Jr. took up the mantle of Batman following the previous Batman, Dick Grayson's, death. At Kara's wedding, her brother Joel showed up, having received powers from the serum Lex Luthor had given him, and attacked his family, killing Kara. Number 3. Jonathan Lane Kent. I love that throughout Superman stories we get to see how powerfully good the super family can be and how powerfully evil they can potentially be as well. Bottom line, either way you slice it, they're powerful. John Lane Kent is the son of Superman and Lois Lane from an alternate future. It was believed that he had died due to an irreparable medical issue with his DNA. Shockingly, it was later revealed that the villain Harvest managed to actually save John, taking his body to the past and resurrecting him. Harvest had his own plans for what John would become and turned him into a villain, using him as a weapon to destroy all metahumans. John is more powerful than his father, sharing his powers, but also possessing the ability to turn invisible. It's later revealed that the original Superboy, Mon-el, was basically a clone of John, and not Superman like we originally thought. Shocking. Number 2. Hyperman. Hyperman is the son of Wonder Woman and Superman from the Kingdom Come reality. Here, Hyperman, as a baby, was raised by Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. However, he was then later stolen away by a villain named Gog, who intended to raise the infant to become a villain. Fortunately, the present day and alternate Kingdom Come future counterparts of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman managed to team up to defeat Gog, with the added babysitting assistance of Baby John himself from the future, where he is revealed to be the hero known as Hyperman. Hyperman ends up being a hero who has the combined powers of both of his parents and also has the ability to time travel. Number 1. Jonathan Samuel Kent, or just John Kent if you will. This is Superman and Lois Lane's child who was born during the events of Convergence. He grew up without really ever knowing the truth of who his parents were, growing up relatively normal but suspicious of what his parents really did. The Kents changed their name to the Whites, escaping the fate of their dying universe and taking up residence on the new Prime Earth, trying to raise John normally and not get in the way of their alternate selves in this new world. Lois still worked as a writer and journalist, but publishing her works under the pseudonym Author X, and Superman kept his superheroic activities under wraps and secretive, going out at night and appearing as a shadow of Superman, as this world kinda already had their own Kal-El. Eventually, the New 52 Superman died, and so the Whites became the Kents once more, and stepped into their usual roles once again. John's powers manifested when he first hit puberty, discovering his laser vision when he accidentally killed the family cat. Shortly afterward, he would take up the mantle Superboy and become a hero alongside his father, starting a rivalry and later a friendship with Batman's son, Damian Wayne. But that's all behind him now, as he went to space, grew up quickly, and now he's a member of the Legion of Superheroes and goes on adventures in the future. Because comics. Number 10. Van-El. Van-El is the imaginary son of Superman that he is made to believe he had in the Superman Annual from 1985, Annual number 11, from the original Superman series. Superman ends up being put in a trance by a plant that starts to kind of attack him as part of a villainous plot. While he's in this trance, he sees what life would be like if he had remained on Krypton and grew up there. He ends up married and with a son named Van-El and a daughter. We don't see Van-El's abilities when it comes to powers, but he is a Kryptonian with both his mom and his dad being from that planet, which means that on Earth, he would probably be at least at Superman levels. Unfortunately, he is just a dream, and Superman heartbreakingly realizes that this world is false and he must wake up. It's actually a pretty sad issue, to be real. This story is like tragic. Number 9. Cyril. Cyril isn't a real child of Superman, although at first we actually thought she was one. Cyril appeared to be the daughter of Lois Lane and Supes from a distant future. She even looked a lot like both of her parents and demonstrated similar powers, but in the end we learned that she was simply created as part of a plot to deliver the Yes virus, which would help Brainiac take over the world. She was created by combining Kryptonian DNA with a human, grafting the DNA sort of over top of her human himself. Originally, she was a human known as Mia, and when she learned of her true origin, she destroyed herself in order to save the world. Cyril was also implanted with all the memories of her parents and being raised by them, so to her, her life as their daughter had felt very real, despite the fact that we learned she was really a fake. Fake daughters, I feel like, should still count, especially if they have memories of being raised. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you are loving my super comfy sweater, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. And if you don't like my comfy sweater, don't tell me, because I don't want to know. It's really comfy, okay guys? I got it for $5 at Value Village, don't judge me. Number 8. Superwoman. Superwoman is Kara Kent, the daughter of Superman and Lois Lane from the alternate reality of Earth 3839. This is the reality we explore in John Byrne's series Superman and Batman Generations. Here, Kara is seen as having the same level of power as Superman, at least initially. Eventually we learn though that Kara really only possesses half the strength of her dad's powers. Oh dear. This means that although she has worked alongside her dad as his sidekick under the name Supergirl for years, she is no match when her evil brother shows up to destroy her and her wedding. Kara was becoming a hero all her own, taking up the mantle of Superwoman and joining forces with her partner in crime fighting and her partner in romance, Bruce Wayne Jr., Batman's son. The two were married, but Kara's brother, manipulated by Lex Luthor to believe that both his father and Kara had actually taken away the powers that he should have been born with, shows up to the wedding and kills Kara shortly thereafter. Number 7. Supergirl. This is the imaginary daughter of Superman, but she still likely exists in some alternate reality, because technically every imagining is like an alternate reality, if that makes sense. So she exists probably somewhere out in the multiverse other than just Superman's dream, and so I'm gonna count her. Also, the dream featuring her in retrospect to the rest of the universe is like really tragic, so I feel like for that reason alone, we should just talk about it, because it's a pretty cool moment in Injustice, because tragic things are cool when they are safely contained in fictional worlds and can make you feel emotions without actually having to deal with the consequences of the tragedies that the emotions come from. Supergirl is Lara Lane Kent, the daughter Lois and Clark would have had in the event that Joker and Harley hadn't made Superman believe Lois was Doomsday and made him kill her. In this very different world, Superman and his daughter, Supergirl, are both still heroes. Her powers are very similar to her father's, and while she isn't quite as experienced as he is, she is still on a similar level when it comes to what she's capable of. Number 6. Carol and Jane Kent. Carol and Jane Kent are the daughters of Superman and Lois from the comic series Superman Secret Identity. We learn of their powers in the final issue, issue number 4, which acts as the conclusion to our tale as Clark moves into his twilight years and his kids mostly take over. Initially, he and Lois weren't sure if they had any powers at all, but many years later they find out that their kids' powers did manifest. It happened to Carol and Jane, their twin daughters, in their teenage years. As adults, they are initially a little less experienced than Clark, but eventually go on to replace him as he leaves more and more of the heroics up to them. By the end of the series, I'd say power level wise they are about at the same place as their dad, or perhaps even a little bit stronger than he was in his prime. Also, Superman Secret Identity is just a really well written story, so if you haven't checked out this miniseries, I highly recommend you go and give it a gander. Also, I can't believe it's from the early 2000s. Like, to me, it feels much more like modern day, like now, not like early 2000s. I mean that as a compliment. Number 5. Supergirl. Seriously, get ready for a list full of Supergirls, cause unsurprisingly, a lot of Superman's kids take up that mantle. This Supergirl is Lara Kent from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Alternate Earth, aka Earth 31. Here, Lara is the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman. She stands out due to her very blue hair. Being a hybrid baby, she ends up inheriting both her parents' powers, making her super powerful and an immensely skilled fighter, having been trained by her mother in the way of the Amazons. One thing that makes her unique as well in comparison to some of the other super kids out there is that she believes her powers make her better than non-powered people, and she actually strives to one day rule over the non-powered people of Earth. A little bit villainous there, Lara. I mean, she's not gonna do it because she's like, I know my dad's like, these people, we gotta protect them. But she's definitely thinking about it. Number 4. Superman. Jonathan Kent is the natural-born son of Lois Lane and Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, Superman, from the main continuity. He was born during the events that caused a reset of the universe when the New 52 basically came about. He and his family were relocated to the New 52 Prime Earth, even though they were originally from New Earth, meaning that for a while we had 2 Supermans on planet Earth, although one was operating in secret, that one being John's dad. John would become good friends with another super son, Damian Wayne, Batman's semi-natural born son. Well, not really. His whole existence is also an interesting story, but enough of that. He's definitely Batman's biological son at least, so we can count that. Damian and John initially didn't get along but would find common ground and then become the best of friends. Of course, then John went to space and grew up rapidly, and currently in the comics, he has also taken up the mantle of Superman after his father, now that he's back on Earth. John's powers are at a very similar scope and level, but as a human Kryptonian hybrid, he apparently does have the potential to become even more powerful than Clark. Hybrid babies are the best babies in terms of superpowers. Number 3. The Golden Child. This version of John Kent comes to us from the alternate Earth of Earth 31. Yep, we're going back to the Dark Knight universe of Frank Miller. In one of his latest Dark Knight universe stories, it was revealed that baby John, who is now a young child here, also born of Superman and Wonder Woman, is actually something completely new when it comes to his power levels. Also, he doesn't have blue hair. No blue hair for John. His sister Lara even suggests that while she agrees with her father about teaching John, that they should soon be prepared to actually learn from him because he's that powerful. At the end of Dark Knight Returns the Golden Child, we see the true extent of John's powers when he takes on Darkseid, calling him basically an old fart the entire time, as he defeats him pretty easily. Darkseid attempts to use his Omega beams only to have young John swallow that power, absorbing it, and then firing it back with his neutron vision powers. Totally unique powers. John is also able to protect his sister Lara in the fight, making her intangible somehow before both her and he fade away, seemingly transforming both of them into some type of energy? I think that's what happened. That's kind of a weird comic, but yes, it did happen. Number 2. Hyperman. Hyperman is the son of Superman and Wonder Woman who comes from the reality belonging to the Kingdom Come story and follow-up story, The Kingdom. In that story, little baby John Kent is kidnapped by Gog. He ends up being rescued by 2 different versions of his parents and his godfather Batman, but ends up with himself in the end, his future self. The hero, Hyperman, who also rules and guards over all of Hyper Time. Hyperman raises the child himself, so raises himself. Continuing the circle and pretty much guaranteeing that John Kent will grow up to become Hyperman, a time-traveling, dimension-hopping hero, because I assume that's how Hyperman was raised, by himself. And then when that one becomes older, he'll have to raise another one. I feel like this is a time loop and it will never end. Number 1. Supergirl. This version of Supergirl is Ariella Kent, the daughter of Linda Danvers' Supergirl and Superman of Earth 1. Yeah, it might sound weird to think that Supergirl and Superman got it on and ended up having a kid together, but remember, this is Linda Danvers' Supergirl. No relation to Supes, and it's also a Superman from another alternate reality because it's Earth 1 Superman, who is therefore even further removed to any kind of relation or affiliation with Linda. Ariella Kent ended up kind of being time or reality displaced due to continuities needing to be altered and set right, but she is still probably out there somewhere in the cosmos, somewhere in the multiverse, although we haven't seen her in the comics for a long time. Ariella was known for her massive power levels, which as a child she had a hard time actually fully comprehending, meaning that wherever she went she generally caused a lot of destruction. Accidentally. This is what happens when you let a super powerful child fly around space and travel through time without any parental supervision. Ariella was also a hybrid baby, being born part Matrix, aka lab-made semi-alien goo, that's basically what the Matrix is, and part Kryptonian. There's gonna be people that are gonna be like, that's not what the Matrix is. I'm like, no, DC Matrix. Look it up. It was a weird thing. But it happened.
Number 10, Cal Kent. Yep, kicking off the list at number 10, we got Cal Kent, aka the future Superman. Yeah, I said future Superman. You didn't, your ears work fine. Coming from the 853rd century, making his debut in JLA, issue 23 back in 1998, this Superman looks very similar to our normal Superman that we would normally recognize. And he includes all the Kryptonian powers as well, but he is from the future. So he's got some extra powers, which is pretty scary considering Superman is already pretty overpowered. He can even punch through time. Guys, he can punch through time. He has telepathy, he has telekinesis, and super thought? Yeah, that's right. He can figure out a bunch of math problems at the same time. That's the future brain right there. Oh, and also, don't even get me started on force vision. That's just unfair, to say the least. And number 9, Superwoman, Lois Lane. First making her comic book debut in 1938 in Action Comics, number 1. Lois Lane is the love interest of Supes himself. She was a reporter for the Daily Planet. On a different number of occasions, Clark's one true love, Lois Lane, has actually gained his abilities and taken on the mantle of, yep, you guessed it, Superwoman. Most notably among these was when Superman created the exogenes formula. That was designed so that Lois could pretty much feel the same things that Superman was feeling. So if he was flying and doing some Superman stuff, she would feel that too. They were like connected. She was actually able to replicate Kal-El's abilities at the same power levels because the number of times she's been powered up. She doesn't really make the top of the list, but she's definitely still up there and counts as a superhero or another version of Superman. So we can't not include her, obviously. Number 8, Superboy. Also known as Connor, or even cooler, Mon-el. He made his debut in 1993 Adventures of Superman issue 500. Superboy was created to essentially be a replacement for Superman. So after Superman died fighting Doomsday, Project Cadmus then used Kryptonian DNA to make Superboy. They wanted a new hero. They wanted to feel safe, so why not just make a clone of the caped hero? Not a bad idea at all. Cadmus wasn't able to get Superman's DNA, so they grabbed a human clone and made it look like him. Cause, I mean, you know, close enough. Well, it turns out if you put a clone near the grave of a dead Supe, you get some powers. See, Superman's bioelectric aura was absorbed by the clone, and thus was given tactile telekinesis, which means you can simulate the powers of Superman. For a small amount of time, he even rocked the high-tech visor to solve that problem, even giving him heat and x-ray vision. The whole t-shirt, the goggles, it's a good combo, I dig it, he looks cool. Number 7, Superboy, but this time it's Jonathan Samuel Kent. Cool middle name too. My middle name's Douglas, and that's, you know, my middle name's Douglas. He's fairly new to the game, only making his first appearance in Convergence Superman issue 2, and he's actually going to be in a live-action show titled Superman and Lois, coming out on the CW next year, or hopefully next year, with the world being the world. With Jordan Elsass playing none other than Jonathan Kent himself. And we can't wait. The creator of the character, Dan Jurgens, says that Jonathan looks like Clark Kent, but he has the Lois Spitfire attitude and inquisitiveness. And if you've seen Little Fires Everywhere, you should be pretty excited to see him play the character. I think my favorite thing about this dude is his disguise. He just rocks the shades and baseball cap and becomes more cool somehow. And his actual outfit, don't even get me started. The ripped jeans, the red sneaks. This was like every guy that I went to high school with. Like I saw him and I'm like, oh, that looks like Brad, or Mike, or Dylan, or Dave, or Tom. The hoodie slash cape situation too, nice touch. Even cooler about this guy is that he's friends with the other super son, Damian Wayne. They got on each other's nerves, sure, but that's what happens when two dudes are being dudes. They always end up teaming together when it mattered anyway, so you gotta love Jonathan Kent. And number 6, Super Pets. Of course, I have to include the dog. I mean, whenever people would ask me about my family members, I would always include the little doggos. Krypto was actually the test pilot for the ship that carried baby Kal-El to Earth. Kind of like when humans launched that space dog, Laika, into orbit in 1957. The only difference was that Krypto, Superdog, his ship went off course, and the dude ended up drifting into space for years. That's even longer in dog years. I mean, poor dude. I'd be so bored. No milk bones on board or anything for this guy? Come on. That's a lie. I actually really want to go to space. But don't worry, Krypto's ship ended up finding Kal-El's ship after it landed on Earth. So when Kal-El was a teenager, this dog just landed from space. That would be a cool birthday gift. Here's a space dog. Go check your front lawn. So you're probably thinking, does this dog also have superpowers? Yes, of course, or he wouldn't be on this list. If for some reason you only want to read about Krypto, you can start with Adventure Comics issue 210. And if that wasn't weird enough, there's also a super cat in the mix. That's right, Streaky the super cat. The two pets ended up joining the League of Super Pets, which is pretty hilarious and kind of cool. I'd watch that series. That was a Netflix series, I'd dive in. Number 5, Supergirl, Kara Zor-el. Much like how Krypto was sent to Earth, Superman's older cousin, Kara Zor-el, was also sent to Earth. She was sent from the dying planet Krypton, of course, to protect Clark Kent. Well, rather, Kal-El. But of course, as fate would have it, she was knocked off course by the explosion of her home planet. Bummer. So she ended up in the Phantom Zone. Now, in the Phantom Zone, you can stay there for decades and not age. And that's actually what Kara did. After her pod finally escaped, she landed on Earth and soon joined the Danvers family. Imagine a 13-year-old girl just falling out of the sky. Like, how many are there? Holy shit. Now, of course, if you want to see her in action, you can catch the hit show Supergirl. Only 3 different actors have played her, the most recent and current run being portrayed by Melissa Benoist. If you start binging it now, you can probably catch up for the 6th and final season that is supposedly airing next year. But if you want to start reading from her comic book origins, you can find her first debut in Action Comics issue 252. Number 4, Power Girl. Zor-el is Earth 2's older counterpart of Supergirl, hence why I put her here in the list. Wild, right? He's crazy. If it's confusing, just know that in order to tell the difference, it's spelled with a letter L rather than the other Supergirl, who is EL. So making her first comic book debut back in All-Star Comics 1976, Kara Zor-el, or rather Power Girl, was sent to Earth the same time as Superman, but her ship was way slower, so she arrived much later. So that was their way of sneaking another character in there and trying to make it make sense. And it worked. We bought it. I'm a fan of Power Girl. She's a badass. This girl doesn't take anything. Her origins have changed multiple times, like now she's Atlantean, and she in fact can hold kryptonite too. Doesn't hurt her. So that's wild. Like I said, badass. If you're wondering what does hurt Power Girl, the answer is wood. Yeah, she doesn't do too well against natural elements of Earth, so if you're thinking about doing a camping trip, I don't think Kara Zor-el will be down for said trip. Number 3, Nightwing, lor-zod. He is the son of General Zod and Ursa. They gave birth to him in the Phantom Zone, and you guessed it, he arrived by pod to Earth. The classic. It's like Uber. Like, hey, you getting a pod? Yeah, I'm gonna get a pod. In like 2 decades though. I'll be a little bit late. So this young boy was lifting TV sets over his head, and everybody was soon looking his direction, being like, how is this possible? So the Department of Metahuman Affairs, or that one doesn't work, decided to take the boy to a secret place in Washington to do tests and all that jazz. But they didn't tell Superman. Eeks. So he was pretty pissed. He broke lor-zod out and then convinced Lois to adopt the young boy, naming him Christopher Kent. And yes, he's also immune to kryptonite, but of course he's got the superpowers to go along with it. The most unique ability Christopher Kent has is that of telekinesis. And number 2, Mon-el. When Mon-el arrived to Earth, people of course assumed it was a brother of Superman or something along those lines. I mean, these guys are falling out of the sky every other day. I mean, what else is new? So yeah, he's got some similar powers as the Man of Steel, but the thing that makes him stand out the most is the fact that this guy's weakness is lead. Yeah, like pencil lead. Lead. Never ask this guy to take notes, you might literally kill him. Making his comic book debut in Superboy Volume 1, Issue 89 in 1961, he's also known as Lar-Gand. He's immune to kryptonite, of course. I mean, he's got the lead problem, so you can't make him weak to kryptonite. That would just be unfair. Mon-el got his name simply by the day of the week he arrived. He arrived to Earth on a Monday, so Clark Kent named him Mon-el. The L, of course, matching Superman's maiden name. And finally, number 1, Superman. Of course, I'm saving the man himself for our last spot. There's been so many movies and TV shows for Batman and Superman that at this point, it becomes a full-on conversation when it comes to who plays the Caped Crusaders on the big screen the best. See, I personally think Henry Cavill is a great Superman, and it's honestly a shame that he's not down to reshoot footage for the Justice League Snyder Cut. I mean, I get it, it's probably not easy to wake up early, get ripped, and do stuff like that. I mean, you know, you have a job, you're doing other gigs, but like all that hype around the director's cut, just throw a cape on, go punch some stuff, we'll do the rest, we'll CGI the rest. His origins go back to Action Comics number 1, way back, I'm talking 1938. That's like as old as my grandma or someone's grandma, probably. So after his homeworld Krypton was dying, Kal-El was sent to Earth after being adopted by the Kent family. He soon discovered that he was able to run faster than a train. So something must be up at this point. The Kents told Clarky that people will be afraid of him if he doesn't just play it cool, you know? I mean, and we saw this in Man of Steel when he pulls the bus out of the water. The kids weren't too chill about that. Grateful, but also super questionable. His foster parents, of course, gave him the name Kent. His foster mother Martha and father Jonathan. Look, a lot of people give Batman vs Superman a hard time because of the whole Martha turning point at the climax. Look, I personally like that moment. Everybody always says, oh, why wouldn't he say mom? Why did he say Martha? That's weird. No, why would a dying man be like, save my mom, her name's Mom? No, he's a detective. I'm sure Superman had the idea that maybe, just maybe, Batman would be able to figure out that Martha Kent is in some sort of trouble. Or at least there's a better odds than if he said mom. Plus, this Dark Knight Returns type version of Batman that we saw probably needed to hear his mom's name to remind him why he put on the cape in the first place. So let's stop arguing about that scene now. I think it's fine. It's fine. Let it go. And of course, as we also saw in that movie, Superman's main weakness is kryptonite. And Batman almost ends the Man of Steel himself by using a kryptonite spear. But of course, Superman's greatest foe is none other than Lex Luthor, who I'm going to save for another video because that guy is a piece of work.